Okay, first off, sorry for this one being about a day later than my usual posting time. I didn't get to the new episode until just now, basically. Uh, where do I even begin? It's not like I enjoy trashing on this adaptation. I wanted this adaptation to be good. I really did. I don't enjoy being so negative all the time. Whatever. Okay, so problems with this week's episode. CG is still bad. The lack of nipples thing. It's just like doesn't make a lot of sense when you can see nipples on anime girls a lot of the time. It's a minor complaint, but it's just really, really weird. Um, One of the things that I noticed this week that I don't think I've brought up before is Guts swinging around his blade. It doesn't seem to hold weight. For some reason, just when he's hitting stuff with it, it looks a lot lighter. It just does not convey the fact that he's swinging hundreds of pounds of metal around. It just doesn't look right. I mean, Guts is a very powerful man. He's not quite at that level of being superhuman, but like his strength is like peak level for somebody who's very strong in the first place. And that sense is just not conveyed very well. The possessed animals this week all looked awful. It's just they all use the exact same model, so there's no differentiation, and they just it's like I'm a big fan of Teen Wolf, right? The MTV series. Make fun of me if you want. I don't care. It's a great series, well acted, well directed. It's a lot of fun. But in the very first season, they didn't have a big budget, and there's this really awkward CG model of a werewolf that looked better than this because they at least used the right lighting to kind of cover that up and certain camera angles so you weren't focused on it all the time. They knew that it was bad CG, but they had the directive sense in there to make sure that it wasn't easily as noticeable. Like you could still tell that they were using like a bad CG model, but it wasn't something that you could just like that your vision just lingered on. They used very clever directing techniques to work their way around that. This, on the other hand, just whatever. The CG models, they aren't taking the time to make sure. Oh, I've got a fly flying around. They aren't taking the time to make sure that they're moving as if they're human. They're just the movement is really awkward. It does not look realistic at all, and it doesn't fit with the quality that is delivered in the manga. One of the big offenses this week: why was there an anime original story? Why did that exist? You have so much material that has been skipped from the manga, and you're having to create an original story for the anime to make up for that? That's ridiculous. Why do that when you could have done a faithful adaptation in the first place? That just pissed me off so much. And then they drew in apostles from a completely different part of this storyline or completely different chapters. That was so terrible. And I'm gonna do a little something that you can call a nitpick, but with the level of detail that is in the manga and in Mura's art, this is just unacceptable. The human skulls did not look like human skulls, and it's a really small thing, but it's very, very noticeable. I mean, detail is one of the best things about Berserk. The smallest thing is it's just so nuanced, you know? It's just the smallest little art details are just, they bring out and make the story feel much more lifelike. Anyway, I had a freeze frame happen when Guts was taking down the Apostle. So this is something most people might not notice. But Guts' arm was like in this, I can't even do it because it's not physically possible. His arm holding the sword was in a position that is only achievable if every bone in your arm is broken. It was that awkward when it freeze framed on me, and I'm looking at it and I'm going, what the hell? I mean, this is something I wouldn't have even known about if, because they were blazing through that scene, that I wouldn't have even really probably noticed if my internet hadn't frozen at that moment, but it did, and dear God, why does Guts have a broken arm? Okay. The little painting or trophy of the preserved human remains thing, that dropped to the ground too quick. It was really awkward. Why was that even a thing in the first place? Rape Horse just came across as really awkward, and I was glad they included that scene, but not in the way they did it. It's supposed to be a very disturbing moment, and it was more awkward than disturbing. Didn't make a lot of sense the way they chose to do it. Yeah, the sword crossing with Serpico, it didn't have the impact that it's supposed to have. It felt more like a fun little banterous moment rather than him testing Guts like he does in the manga and him giving that death glare. Plus, they didn't even mention the fact, I mean, he said, oh, hey, Puck is here. He knew that Puck was there, but that is something that Puck is expressly shocked about considering who he is. That just didn't make sense. But my biggest complaint, why is the invasion happening right now? This is something that is not in Convocation. It's not in this arc at all. The invasion doesn't happen till, I think it was Fantasia. God. Why is it happening now? And it's way too early for that to be happening. I don't understand why they're doing this. But I don't know. Last week at least had something of a saving grace. Let me pull back my notes. I don't know. Last week had some saving grace in the 2D flashbacks, but this week was just as bad as episode 1. I don't know. I don't even know why I'm still watching this. Honestly, it's just because I'm such a big fan of Berserk, and I feel like I've got an obligation to whoever is watching this little series I'm doing to actually review it at this point. But God, it's so bad.